Hey everyone, how's it going? It's Russell Matthews here, and today I have two updates for you. First, we're going to talk about the bill that has recently been voted on that would bring an increase of $1,200 to the Canada Child Benefit, as well as student loan interest being paused for a time, as well as an increase in Canada's credit limit, the Canadian government's ability to spend, by $600 billion. There have been some developments there, but also, and extremely significantly, some hints have been dropped about what's going to replace the CRB program come September when it finishes up. And it may not be called UBI, but it might look a little bit like it. So that's what we're going to cover today. But before we do, if you haven't already done so, check out the links in the description where you can take a look and open up your own investment accounts and take your wealth into your own hands. And as well, if you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to keep on supporting Canadian content on the YouTube platform just like this. All right, let's get into these details. All right, so let's start with Bill C-14. Now, you might remember this was introduced way back in November during that fall economic update that Christopher Freeland, the finance minister, brought forward. Now it's been debated constantly and it's sort of been dragged out, and now we're finally getting somewhere on this bill. Remember, this has things in it for students to pause their interest payments on student loans, as well as a top up of $1,200 extra a year for the Canada Child Benefit. That's also included here, and much to the chagrin of many Conservatives who have voted against this largely in the past, it also includes an increase in Canada's ability to borrow, and an additional $600 billion will be added to the ceiling, the maximum amount that the Canadian government can borrow. And there have been some updates on this. Just as of this week, there was the third reading in the House of Commons where they debated it over a few different days, and we finally have some vote results. So let's head over to this vote result, and you can see right here what the vote result was. It was 200 votes yes, or 210 votes yes, and 118 votes nay. Now, you'll typically see 118 as the number on votes if one particular party voted against it and the rest voted for it. So in this case, this was 118 Conservatives who voted against the bill, and 210 everybody else in the House of Commons essentially voted in favor of the bill. Now, as I've said on the channel before, I like to sort of stay down the middle on a bunch of these topics so I can just bring you this information and you can make up your mind about whether or not you support something like this going forward. But let's switch over here and see exactly where we are in this process. Now that that vote went through, the third reading was successful, what happens now? Well, let me show you this. This is the whole process for the legislative process. We finished this, finished this, finished this, finished this, finished this, finished this over the course of around 4 months, close to 5 months. And now we're on this step right here that's highlighted here, the consideration and passage by the Senate. Now, after the House of Commons passes it through third reading, which they have just done, it gets passed over to the Senate. Now, they have to debate it, they have to talk about it, and they have to vote it through as well. Now, they also have the option to add amendments to this bill, which would mean that they want to change something. They don't like the wording of some aspect of the bill. They think it's against what they want to vote forward. They could send that back to the House of Commons, in which the House of Commons would have to debate the newly worded changes, the amendments that the Senate has made. And then if the House of Commons likes that, then awesome, we can go forward. The process is complete. But if they don't, they gotta send it back to the Senate again. So it can be a lengthy process, but this is where we currently are. We're waiting for the Senate to actually pass this bill. And by looking here at the Senate's calendar, we can find out when the earliest that could possibly be is. And it seems that right now I'm recording this is Sunday, the 18th of April. Now on Tuesday, the 20th, that's the first day that the Senate should be able to potentially read this bill as well as vote on it, potentially pushing it forward. Now, this is interesting timing because, of course, on Monday the 19th, right here, we're going to get information on the federal budget and what the future of Canada is going to look like from a financial point of view. What benefits are going to go forward? Are there going to be any changes to housing? All of these concerns are going to be covered here on Monday the 19th. We're going to live stream it on the channel if you want to join in. But depending on the additional spending that we might see created on the 19th there, it could be kind of important that they pass this bill because they're going to need an additional $600 billion in spending room if this bill passes through. So that's where we are with Bill C-14. Now, it's likely that it's going to pass through the Senate. It's rather rare that the Senate finds some major problem in a bill and sends it back, and then this process is delayed even longer, but it does still need to make it through the Senate. They have to vote on it, and then it will receive royal assent, in which case it's actually going to start being applied. And people who are waiting for the Canada Child Benefit increase, well, you should be able to get your retroactive payments relatively soon afterwards afterwards. Remember, they're going to pay that out quarterly every 3 months. You get $300 extra, adding up to $1,200 over the course of the year. But now I want to show you something that I'm finding pretty interesting right now, and it has to do with the big question, what's going to happen after CRB ends? Many people know that based on the bill and the legislation that the House of Commons put forward for the CRB when it was originally created back in September, October of 2020, well, they only allowed for this program to last until September 2021. So as of September 2021, the CRB will no longer be in existence, along with the CRSB, the CRCB. Many people are questioning what's going to happen after that. Are we going to see a universal basic income sort of transition out of this CRB into a universal basic income? Is that something we're going to see? We've covered that a little bit on the channel here, and some hints have been dropped as to what programs or what sort of transitional happenings will actually go on in this transitional period in September. Well, I want to show you a clip here from a recent House of Commons committee meeting. Now, in the House of Commons, you'll see them in the House of Commons. Everyone's debating in that big room. That's probably what's most familiar to you. But also, when the House of Commons isn't sitting inside of that main room, they also have committee meetings. Now, inside of these committee meetings, it's generally a little bit more boring. They hear from a bunch of different witnesses, different testimonies from different people in order to inform the policy decisions that those committees make. And inside one of these meetings, they actually called on Carla Qualtrough, the Minister for Employment here in Canada, and she revealed what a program might look like transitioning out of CRB and when we're going to get more information on this. Let me show you the clip I'm talking about. Now, Carla Qualtrough, as the Minister for Employment, she's one of the main people who has dealt with the CRB, the CRCB, CRSB, as well as the changes to employment insurance that we were dealing with about a month ago. And this person here in this HUMA committee meeting actually asks her an interesting question, and she might reveal something that she may not have been supposed to as of yet. Let's listen in, and then we'll talk more about it.
The fact that this is going to revert back in September 2021, when do you think we'll have some clear indication of what will happen after that?
Well, as I said in my opening remarks, in the kind of weeks and months to come, we're going to lay that vision for a modernized EI out for Canadians. Of course, we all know on Monday there's a very important budget that will be dropping, and it would be a bit of a career-limiting move if I scooped my boss or our Deputy Prime Minister. So I'll leave it to them to share with Canada what is happening then, but we absolutely have to have some decisions in place, at least for what happens to the changes that were made by the end of September, sooner rather than later. And I think Graham and Cliff can talk about the timing we need from a systems point of view, but we need months to make those changes.
Okay, an interesting answer. So clearly Carla Qualtrough doesn't have her camera on, so they just go to this empty room. That's what committee meetings look like in the time of COVID. But an interesting answer, and it seems like it may not be a universal basic income per se, but what it seems like they're planning on doing is totally revamping the employment insurance system. She kind of makes the joke here that, hey, if I was to tell the committee what this is going to look like right now, well, that might not be good for my career to sort of take the big story away from Krista Freeland, who's planning on announcing this on Monday, on April 19th, during that time in the House of Commons when she's presenting that budget to everybody. But it seems like we're going to get information on exactly what this employment insurance revamp might look like. You might remember that since the beginning of the pandemic, there have been increased amounts of people who are eligible for the employment insurance program. But because of the influx of new people into the employment insurance program, well, it's shown just how old this system is and how outdated it is. It doesn't work well with gig workers and new jobs that are actually forming what Canada's economy looks like today. So there have been lots of calls for the EI system to be reformed. We just didn't expect to get it this soon. Now, this doesn't actually mean that there's going to be a universal basic income, but based on what these details are that we're going to find out on Monday, it could look rather like this. It could look like something where anybody who is not able to work is able to receive maybe a beefed up amount of employment insurance. Now, it's not really universal, right? Because the whole point of universal basic income is everybody gets it. But many people have been calling for a guaranteed livable wage and these sort of top-ups to make sure everyone is living above the poverty line. Now, this could respond to some of those questions. And she also talks a little bit about this deadline that they're up against, right? All of these changes, all of these benefits, all of the changes to the EI program that have allowed more people to access it, this is all going to end at the end of September. And she says, hey, it's going to take months. So we're going to need months to implement these systematic changes, which means it would have to be debated in the House of Commons even before that in order to have all of these changes made so that they can start changing the system so that people can actually apply to these benefits. So if we see something significant in the budget on Monday, well, then we should also expect to see a bill introduced rather soon to see them start debating this in the House of Commons. So it seems like this is actually speeding along rather quickly if they're actually going to meet that deadline of the end of September when all these programs finally end. But again, and it seems like I'm saying this every single video, it all is hinging on this budget that's coming out on Monday. I'm going to be live streaming it, I believe, around 3:30 p.m. on Monday, April 19th. That's tomorrow from when I'm recording it now. They're set to release that budget at 4 p.m. We're going to start at 3:30, go over some information, what we might expect, and we're going to do a deep dive analysis on it as it's being announced and go over all the details that we hear afterwards. So I'd love to see you there. We're going to hang out all afternoon and sort of look at exactly what Canada's future is when it comes to the way they're going to spend their money. It's going to be so important. But either way, depending on what you think about all of this, let me know down in the comments. What do you think of these potential changes to the employment insurance system? Do you think they should just scrap EI how it is now and implement something totally new, like a full UBI program, like the Liberals voted on actually at their national policy convention? Is that the route forward for Canada? Or should we make these sort of more small, more subtle changes to sort of adapt the current systems that are already in place to make it more accessible for the modern world? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to check out the links in the description where you can open up your own investing accounts and start taking your wealth into your own hands. You can really only count on yourself these days. And of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell if you want to personally support Canadian YouTube content continuing to be produced, just like channels like this one. And with all of that said, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and that it's helped you out at least a little bit. Man, I messed up my outro. When do I ever do that? And with that said, I'll see you guys next time. This channel is supported by viewers like you. Thanks, channel members.